What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Mr. Cincinnati, and conspicuous by his absence is the podcast dad. He is off being a parent. He has some very, very tired twins tonight and is not able to join me. So if you saw his shirt on our show earlier today, that says "shit, I have twins." He loves them, but he's very tired, so that's okay. I figured I'd give him the night off, but I'm gonna go ahead and press on anyway because, quite frankly, this is my favorite part of the show. We get to talk to somebody in the wrestling business, and I have been looking forward to this interview for a very, very long time. Our guest this week turned a childhood dream into the ultimate reality. He's worked for Skyfire Pro Lucha Libre, Prestige Wrestling, GCW, among countless other promotions. He's a commentator. He's a ring announcer. He is a Chili's connoisseur. He has got the most dapper head of hair in wrestling. Please welcome Jordan Castle. Jordan, how are you, man?
My friend, after an introduction like that, I'm spectacular. That blew me away. I feel like you're giving me all these flowers, commentator, this and that. I feel like you should be the broadcaster. You should be the announcer after an introduction like that. It floored me. It blew me away. I'm fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. We got to come correct when we do these, man. You know, we know that podcasts can be a hit and miss experience for people, and we certainly try not to cultivate that atmosphere here. So we want to make everybody feel as welcome as possible. And like I said, this is one that we've kind of orbited around each other on social media for the last few months or so, and it's nice to finally sit down and get this going.
Yeah, we were saying before we started recording, it's taken a little bit of time. We'll stop and start. I've been available, you haven't, vice versa. And I'm very glad to be here. Like I said, I'm glad that you guys thought of me. I'm sad that it's not the full experience. I feel like maybe sometime I'll have to come back when both of y'all are here. But again, love to the family, love to the twins, and very, very glad that we're here. Very glad that we're making it happen.
Hell yeah. Let's get right on into it, man. Here at the Wrestling Junkies, we look at everybody in wrestling. They're heroes, they're villains, they're tweeners. They all have origin stories. And, you know, as I said off rip, this was a childhood dream for you. Usually we would ask what your earliest memories of pro wrestling are, but I think we're going to do something a little different with you. Name one match or one event or one person where you knew this is what I was doing with the rest of my life.
Man, it sounds so corny to say, but it was probably... I'll give you two, because I think my gut answer was to say it was probably the first time I ever watched wrestling, which was a random SmackDown in fall in fall of 2009. I don't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but it was Batista versus Chris Jericho in the main event. And that was Batista right before he turned on Ray at bragging rights. And you were supposed to be my friend. And that was Jericho. And he was still one half of the Unified Tag Team Champions with Big Show. So that was the first time I ever saw wrestling. I remember it clear as day. I was 8 years old. My dad was watching in bed. I crawled into bed with him and just kind of asked him, what was this? What are we watching? Who are these people? And he kind of gave me the rundown. And I remember instantly I was hooked. Something about it, whether it was the personalities or the colors or just whatever it was, it popped off the screen. And from that moment, I was hooked. And that was the moment that made me fall in love with wrestling. I think maybe the first time that I thought like, oh, this is something that I could do and I want to do and I am going to do was maybe the first time I saw it live, which was about a month after that when Raw came to the DCU Center in Worcester, Massachusetts. And it was during the infamous guest host era. So Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne were hosting. Listen, man, people clown on the guest host era. I get it. There's a lot of blunders. There's a lot of bad stuff in there. But I grew up with it. I have that sentimental piece in my heart. I think there's, amongst a lot of bad, of which there is a lot, there is a great deal of good. And I love the show, man. I mean, it's maligned with the Chris Masters Peck dance and, a 20-minute DX promo to open the show. But I remember just the magic of seeing it live, from the pyro to the lights to the splendor of everything. And specifically seeing, Justin Roberts as ring announcer and King and Cole as commentators and seeing what they were doing and seeing like, I might not be the most athletically inclined person. I might not be the fastest person, the strongest person, the most in shape person, but here these guys are a part of this. Yeah. I want to say that was the moment where it really clicked that this was something. And this is something that not only I wanted to make happen, but that I could make happen, if that makes sense.
Of course. And I mean, obviously, it did not take you very long to find yourself in wrestling. I did come across this little gem here. If this will come up.
Oh, boy!
Show. So I believe was a show for Make-A-Wish that you helped to put together. 13 years old. Tell us the motivation behind this. How did we get here to this picture?
So at that point, that show happened in 2014. Planning started about a year before in 2013. I'd been watching wrestling for about 4 years at that point. I honestly don't know what compelled me to come up with the idea. I had been going to independent wrestling shows in New England, specifically MWF, Millennium Wrestling Federation, and Chaotic Wrestling, primarily in the Northeast area. So I knew of the sort of smaller regional independent wrestling, and I really don't know what compelled me to think that it was possible. But it was like a random thing that I brought up to my parents once in the summer of 2013, and they are perpetually supportive and perpetually wonderful people and wonderful parents, and I can't thank them enough for that. It's been indelible in helping me forge this path and chase this dream. But they were totally here for it. I think, most other smart adults would say, maybe not, maybe wait until you're older. That's crazy. But they were totally gung-ho and totally supportive. Whether or not they actually thought it would be a thing and thought it would actually come to fruition, I don't know. But they were totally supportive. And I started that summer. I started raising money for it through, this is a true story, through a lemonade stand in my hometown, and through, crowdfunding and help from family, and raise the money somehow, some way to make it happen. Again, with it being a charity show, a lot of very kind people, from the actual talent themselves to the venue to the ring rentals, were very kind of helpful and gracious in helping to make it happen. But that was a very real thing that from the ages of 12 to 13 happened. It was crazy. The tape is out there. It's on YouTube. Yeah. I linked it with that post. But it was a wild time, man. I said it again in the tweet, but never again. Being a promoter is a thankless job, and I say it all the time to the ones that I work for now, that I would not wish that on my worst enemy. Thank God for them. Thank God that they exist to run these shows and make them great. But never again, especially now that I'm older and not a cute, chubby, bald 13-year-old. I feel like people would be a lot less gracious. But it was a blast, man. It's something that I'm still to this day very proud of, and something that I look back on very fondly. It's crazy to think it's been 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, as you should be. I mean, that is no easy feat, no matter the age, like you said. I mean, the thankless job the promoters do, and here you are. This is kind of your first foray into the wrestling business, and I'm sure that, because it takes time to get your name out there, build your reputation, and turn it into something where you're actually earning a living in addition to doing what it is that you love. I do have to ask this, because you're a Chili's connoisseur. You once ring announced a show for a $25 gift card. How the hell does that come about? How excited were you when that was at the end of that night?
Oh, man, that was about a month ago. That was for good folks over at Mark's R Us. They ran a show as part of Double or Nothing Weekend this past May at the Dive Bar in Vegas. Very, very cool cats, very good people. And over the course of the last few months or so, they've started actually properly running shows. Big, crazy deathmatch vibe with glass and barbed wire and fire and skewers and all this crazy bloody violent stuff, but they, much like myself, are Chili's connoisseurs, big fan of the grill and bar, and I mean, the main event was John Wayne Murdoch versus Otis Cogar, and they made it a triple dipper death match in honor of the viral triple dipper from the restaurant. And you can't have a triple dipper death match without a $25 Chili's gift card. And so on a show with some of the most fearsome and violent people to ever grace a deathmatch ring, there was something kind of cosmically, ironically wonderful about it being main evented by this just ridiculously stupid meme. But I was honored to be a part of it, and I was honored to kick out Jody himself, a friend, and on that night, co-commentator, who is a Chili's hater and an Applebee's lover. Bring me great joy to huck him out of there. It was a beautiful thing, man. I've called and ring announced matches for some pretty huge championships and some pretty huge stakes, but that might take the cake, or take the Chili's molten lava cake, I should say.
So what is it about the molten lava cake that makes it so damn addicting?
Man, again, much like wrestling and much like 2009 guest host era Raw, some of this is for sure nostalgia because it was like my family's go-to spot in childhood. But I think it's a fantastic dessert, man. You got that warm cake. It's got this great sort of cylindrical shape, spherical shape. And it's this warm, gooey cake with this molten hot center, hence the name, and the scoop of ice cream on top. All great, all classic standard dessert fare. But what really makes it for me that a lot of molten lava cakes don't have, even if they have the scoop of ice cream and they have the hot center, they got this chocolate shell on top, this like hard chocolate shell, just brings it all together. It's fantastic. It's the perfect end to a perfect meal at the perfect restaurant. I cannot put over the Chili's molten lava cake enough. Specifically the chocolate version. I'm not crazy about like the blondie vanilla version, but the chocolate version goes crazy.
Man, now I've got my munchies kicking in. This is
dude, DoorDash it up. Uber Eats it up. I don't know. You said you're in Ohio, right?
Yeah, we do have a couple of Chili's out here.
I'm saying, man, TikTok.
Feel like next time that we have you on, I think we're all just gonna have to make sure that we've all got our respective Chili's DoorDash.
Yes,
and
we can do like what do they call that?
Wrestling.
Like a mukbang kind of thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I'm in.
Love it. Well, in addition to wrestling, you are a recent college graduate as well, Chapman University. Not just you, but another standout on the independent wrestling scene, Jack Cartwheel, seen here not doing a cartwheel.
No.
How many were done during this particular celebration?
Okay, so here's the thing is that this was taken on the commencement, which happened on Friday. And then over the course of the weekend, that Saturday and Sunday, they would have the respective graduation ceremonies for people's individual major. And so neither me nor Jack walked the night that picture was taken. We walked either Sunday or Saturday the next day. And I was part of the theater program, screen acting to be specific, the most useless major in the world. But we're doing all right. And Jack, I believe, I'm a bad friend, I believe was a business major, but I could be wrong about that. He wasn't in the theater department. He wasn't in screen acting or a part of the College of Performing Arts. So I actually didn't see him walk across the stage, and I do not know if he cartwheeled. I hope he did. I juked Hardy Boys style. There's a video of it out there somewhere. It's on Twitter if you search for it. But yeah, I hope at least one cartwheel was done. Ideally, it would be like across the stage, a sort of like multitude, but I don't know. Maybe he wasn't feeling show. I don't have the answer. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's perfectly fine. It seems like that might be an opportunity for us to ask him that ourselves here down the line.
Bring him on, Jack's the man. He's a great guest.
Oh. Well, it's also been a busy summer for you. You've worked a few GCW shows. You've worked Prestige, Roseland. It's just been a hell of a summer for wrestling, especially in the Pacific Northwest. But you've got this show coming up, the Alliance for All. You're going to be working this show Over the Rainbow, I believe, this upcoming Thursday. Very, very star-studded lineup it looks like we have for that card. What are you looking forward to most about this event?
Man, so this will be the third AFA show, first outside of sort of their home territory of Chatsworth, California. And these shows are a blast, man. They're run by Barbie Boy, who's a good friend, again, a product of MPW and the Millennium Wrestling Academy. And it might sound kind of cliche to say, but they feel like a party. They're just so much fun. Everyone there's no drama, there's no BS. Everyone there is just there to have a good time and celebrate wrestling and put on the best possible show for the fans. And I'm talking both in front of the curtain and behind the curtain. It's just good vibes all around. Everyone there to support each other, no one there to judge each other. And with that comes some pretty fantastic wrestling. Again, I've had the good fortune of calling the first two shows with a rotating commentary booth. So it's been me, Pollo Del Mar, Pinky Santino, Remy Morgan, Barry Sweeney. I'm for sure leaving a person or two out, but it's been very cool to kind of have different voices and call one match with this person, one match with that person, one person with the next person. Because it's, of course, great to call a whole show or call multiple shows with the same person and build that rapport. But there's also something very cool about switching it up. The way I call a match with Remy is different than the way I call a match with Pollo. It's different than the way I call a match with Barry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so as a commentator, that keeps me on my toes. Yeah. But I would say if you're in the area, Azusa, California, this is going up Friday, this coming Friday.
Yeah, we might actually move this release up a little bit. Again, given the show that we have coming up on Thursday. Yeah.
So
we might move this up. Yeah.
If you hear this on or before the 27th and you're able to make it, then please do. And if not, the matches will be uploaded at some point in the future for free on YouTube, on AFA's YouTube channel. So definitely give those a watch, give me a listen. And again, it's great wrestling. It is a fantastic showcase of the independent scene here in Southern California. As you saw, Effie's going to be there. Shane Hayes is going to be there. It's going to have kind of a nice mix of some homegrown regional talent as well as some big heavy hitters in the world of wrestling. And I could not be more excited for Thursday.
Love that. What would you say is the difference in your preparation if you know that you're calling one event with just one partner throughout the entire show versus a rotating cast of co-announcers?
I wouldn't say that the preparation as far as note-taking is terribly different. I will kind of have the same process regardless as far as writing notes ahead of time, showing up the day of, talking to wrestlers, talking to the promoters, and just figuring out sort of what they need from me. That stays pretty constant. But if it is a cast of multiple people, I just kind of make a point to talk with them and say, hey, what do you need from me? Are you looking more to be play-by-play, to be color, or depending on what the preference of the promotion or the promoter is, do you want me to take a certain role? And just kind of iron out that, because I think those conversations are important to have beforehand. If you have two people kind of trying to just call the moves or trying to tell the story, or they're not sure what the other person is doing, it can get kind of messy during the actual broadcast. And so especially with a show like this, where it's this person pop in and this person out, as simple as just having a little 2-minute check-in of like, hey, are you cool with me doing this? Or what do you want to do? And just kind of figuring out what our strengths are and what our preferences are. And especially for a show like this, that can kind of change match by match. Let's say, for example, one match is a Sandra Moon match. I might know a lot of her moves and a lot of her kind of different intricacies and names for stuff, whereas my co-commentator might know a lot of the sort of history and lore and accomplishments of her opponent. And so in that case, it would make sense for me to take more of a play-by-play role and him to take more of a color commentary role to fill in those gaps. Vice versa, if I'm someone who's kind of more versed on the story or the history of the characters, and the other people, the other co-commentators, the other broadcast partners, they are more versed on the technical side of things, people's moves, people's move names, any injuries or anything people are dealing with, then they are probably more apropos to take the play-by-play role, and I can take the color. So really stuff like that, just kind of making sure everyone's on the same page. Might be a boring technical answer, but there it is.
No such thing, man. But I do have to ask, I mean, you're probably one of the best dressed ring announcers, commentators on the indies right now.
Thank you, my friend.
What's the style inspiration for you?
Well, again, I feel a little underdressed now. I'm just wearing this Alex Shelley t-shirt. Okay. I'm not suited up per usual, but I do appreciate you saying that. I'm a big believer of dress for the job you want. And I have the job I want currently working in wrestling, but I also want to make wrestling full-time. I'm very fortunate that it supplements my income right now, and it is part of the reason that I'm able to live in a place as expensive as Southern California, but it doesn't pay all the bills. And I want to get to a point where it does, and it can be all I'm doing full-time professionally. And I think in order to get there, you need to dress a certain way. You need to dress the part. You need to look the part. And that's not a slight on anyone else who underdresses or dresses differently, because I think they are phenomenal. There's, people out there like an MLJ or a Marco Arriaga or a J Rose who do the more casual thing, and I think they absolutely rock it. But specifically for me and for my style and the way I present, I think in order to sell that package and more than anything else, sell the importance of a show, because that's what commentary is supposed to do, right? We're not there to put over ourselves. People often do, and it sucks, but commentary and ring announcing at its best is there to enhance the product and enhance the wrestlers. And I think me dressing a certain way and wearing certain stuff says, hey, I think these people in this place in this show is important enough that I'm going to get all fancied up. And so by virtue, it's worth your time. So I think it's kind of twofold in that way.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So this next little bit, this is going to be a little bit of story time with Mr. Cincinnati. I came across a couple of pictures that I just want to put you on the spot here.
Oh, boy.
This first one is with your good pal, Masha Slamovich. I want you to tell me the most wholesome Masha Slamovich story that you possibly have, just because we're used to seeing her in just all kinds of death matches and just very, very gruesome, brutal shit. But there's got to be a soft side in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, there definitely is. But Masha is also, and I hope she won't mind me saying this, Masha is like the most like filthy, depraved person ever as far as just like her sense of humor and her sensibility. So certainly like the deathmatch stuff and the brutal wrestling, like she's a tough cookie. She's a badass. That is absolutely true. That cannot be disputed. But she's also just like a filthy sicko in terms of just her sense of humor. So I'm racking my brain. There definitely are some. Hell, that same weekend that picture was taken, me and her, we before we went out, that was at a bar in New York City, and it was around Christmas time before Game Changer Wrestling's big New Year's Eve weekend. We went out, had some drinks, kind of shopped around New York. But before that, we were sitting in sweatpants in her apartment with Akira and their roommate Wraith, just watching this Hulu show. It's a British show. The name's escaping me. But the whole conceit of the show is that it shows like these naked people sort of one level at a time. And it's like a Bachelor type situation where there's one person, either a guy or a girl, looking at these people. And so first it'll show their genitals and they have to eliminate one person. And then after that, it'll show the genitals and also the chest. And they have to eliminate one person based on that. You keep eliminating people more and more and more until finally you get one person. And I was just thinking to myself, like, here I am watching just like schlock reality TV with badass Masha Slamovich on her couch that is absolutely covered in hair from their dog Coda. But that is the first thing that comes to mind. Another one, you mentioned Prestige Wrestling. The first time that I was fortunate enough to fly to Portland and work one of the Roseland shows for Prestige, Masha was also booked. And we both had later flights the day after the show. So me and her spent the day exploring Portland. We went to the Buffalo Exchange and thrifted some clothes. We shopped for some books at Powell's, a very famous bookstore. We also went to Voodoo Donuts and got donuts from a very famous shop there. And, we're talking about this and you asked for something wholesome. It was wholesome, or it would have been, if not for this picture I'm supposed to show you, or that I'm going to show you here. My phone will ever load. Give me 2 seconds here. It's a lot of pictures in Portland I got to sift through. But this is Masha Slamovich at Voodoo Donuts in Portland, Oregon. So again, even this sweet, lovely day we had exploring this new city together, this is what she left me with. So I'm sorry, man. I'm hard pressed.
That's okay. I had to try. And
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. I do.
So this next picture we have here is a car ride, once again with Jack Cartwheel, but you've also got Nick Wayne, Jordan Oliver in this car. Tell us a little bit about the shenanigans in this car ride.
So this was 2022, April or May, I believe, heading from Los Angeles to San Francisco, California for another GCW loop. It is affectionately referred to by my good friend, DJ Tony D, of course, excellent cinematographer, excellent video editor. You can see him all over a lot for DPW as of late. Incredible guy and incredible artist. It is affectionately referred to by him as the day that wrestling almost died, because as you can see, I'm in the driver's seat in that picture, splitting the carload with old Jack Cartwheel. And I am admittedly a terrible driver. I'm just not good behind the wheel. ADHD, rattled brain. It's just not conducive to me driving well. And this is just, it's important to know your strengths and weaknesses. This is just a weakness I know I have. So we're driving on I don't know if you've ever made the trip, but from LA to San Francisco is about 6 hours. And there's an hour in LA that is, pretty eventful. You're in the city. You're right outside the city. There's a lot to see, a lot to do. And then there's, an hour or two when you're closer to the Bay, closer to Northern California, and you have beautiful views there. But there's a solid 3-4 hour stretch on that drive of just nothing. And I'm sleep deprived from the night before, barely get any sleep, still running on adrenaline from the LA show the night before. We're driving halfway to San Francisco. And I don't know what happened, man, but I very nearly got us into a car accident. It was one of those close calls. Managed to swerve away at the last second. But from that point forward, Jordan Oliver was like, I think we'll let Jack Cartwheel take over for the rest of this ride. And I said, I think that's a good idea. But again, ever since telling Tony D that story, that is known as the day that wrestling died, almost. Luckily, they didn't. All three of those guys are crushing it. Nick in AEW, Jack in AEW Ring of Honor, also Mexico, Japan, Jordan, GCW, all over the Indies.
Nice.
That was a hell of a trip, man. Besides almost murdering those three sweet boys, they are wonderful dudes, and there were some great stories shared and some great laughs had. And it's crazy to think it's been over 2 years since that picture was taken, but I could not be prouder of all three of them for how far they've come and how much they've done. I'm very glad that I did not murder them that fateful day in San Francisco.
Yeah, no, I think all of wrestling thanks you for that, for sure.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
But as we look towards taking this interview home here, I want this next part to be a bit of a moment of self-reflection. You recently spent some time. You went to Vegas for Double or Nothing. You also were at the original in 2019. So 5 years to the day that you were at Double or Nothing. And then another picture that I came across here with you and Shelton Benjamin, 2010 to 2024. What, if anything, would you love to say to young Jordan right now about where you are in wrestling?
My man, you came prepared. I feel like I'm on Hot Ones with Sean Evans or something right now. This is fantastic.
I'll take that.
He's got the pictures and everything. It's great. No, man, it's a really beautiful thing because I think in wrestling so often you hear, and I've experienced in my 3 years or so that I've worked in wrestling, what a thankless business it can be, how it can feel like you give so much and you don't get anything back. And that can definitely be true, and it can be frustrating, and it can be heartbreaking in a lot of ways. But the other side of that same coin is how it really can give back, and it can love you back. I always go back to the Bryan Danielson quote of, if you fight for your dreams will fight for you. And I think that has never been truer than for me in my time in wrestling. As I said, it's something I've loved for 15 years. It's been a passion. It's been a hyperfixation, whatever you want to call it. And I don't take for granted the fact that I'm able to live that dream and the fact that I'm able to turn that passion into something that is consistently fiscally sensible, something that I'm able to make money through and see the world through. It's very cool, man. I'm not sure if there are words for it. I'm not sure if I can really truly properly articulate it. But I'm very grateful. In moments like that, whether it's Double or Nothing or working with Shelton, to see it kind of come full circle is exceptionally cool. It's a reminder, I think, with wrestling. Like I said, it can be so thankless. It can be such a grind. You can have those blinders on and have that tunnel vision. But those are the moments where you really have no choice but to take a step back and say, man, like, this happened and you made this happen, and a lot of really cool, generous, wonderful people along the way helped you make this happen, and a little bit of cosmic luck or fate or whatever from the universe helped make that happen. But to be able to say that I'm now working with these people that I grew up watching, or being on the other side, being backstage at these events that I grew up watching, there's nothing cooler than that. And I feel like just about the luckiest dude in the world. So again, it's easy to get caught up in that grind, but I definitely try to make it a point to stop and smell the roses when I can. And I'm just so grateful and so excited for what's next. As corny as that might sound.
No, that's okay. I'm not sure how you're going to feel about what comes next here. This is probably the hardest question that you're going to get. We ask every guest this question on this show. You are no different. When you hear the moniker Mr. WrestleMania, is it Shawn Michaels? Is it The Undertaker?
It's got to be Shawn Michaels. I mean, it's got to be HBK. I love Taker, man. The streak is huge, but for me, it's got to be Shawn. He was the one who actually had the moniker. That was the one they actually, as far as like they presented him as Mr. WrestleMania on TV. The commentary said it. He said it. So it's got to be HBK. And again, I love Taker, and I would never slander Taker, but I'm going for a little bit right now. Taker has a couple stinkers in there. Taker has a couple ones, especially towards the end, and even a few kind of in between. You look at, John Gonzalez or A-Train Big Show or, I don't know, Roman Reigns, Big Boss. I like when Big Boss Man got hung. I thought that was pretty sick. But there's a couple of stinkers in there. I may or may not have a T-shirt with Big Boss Man hung in there that has some lettering and slogan on there. But that's neither here nor there. Shawn Michaels is more consistent. I don't really think you can name a bad Shawn Michaels WrestleMania match, and to me, it is quality over quantity every time. So I got to go with HBK.
Yeah, podcast is definitely going to be glad that he was not here to listen to that response. He's very much Team Taker when it comes to that Mr. WrestleMania debate. The numbers as far as overall lifetime of this show are not in his favor, but
Listen, maybe again, I'll have to come back. I take it you're a Shawn man.
I am all day, every day.
I'll have to come back on the podcast. We'll do our Chili's mukbang, and he can plead his case to me, and vice versa. It'll be great.
That absolutely sounds like a blast, Jordan. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I am beyond glad that we finally got to do this. Before we let you go, where can everybody find you on social media? What do you have coming up as far as the rest of the summer, or as far as June, July?
Yes, sir. At JordanW_S on Twitter and Instagram. Feel free to follow me there for any updates, specifically Twitter, or X as it's called now. That is probably where the majority of the updates and sort of active wrestling content is going to be. But I got a very busy summer, man. I'm very grateful for it. You talked about AFA coming up this Thursday in July. I'll be back to Portland for Prestige Wrestling's biggest show ever. That is Combat Clash PDX at the Viking Pavilion in Portland. That is a legitimate 3,000-seat arena. Prestige has done some pretty big stuff, and I've been fortunate to be there and be on the call for the majority of it. But this is a whole nother level, to be in an arena, to be on this show with Alex Shelley versus Chris Sabin. Not the Motor City Machine Guns teaming with each other. Shelley versus Sabin. One-on-one, baby. Shelton Benjamin versus Mike Santana. Alan Angels versus Evil Uno in a street fight for the Prestige Wrestling World Championship. Athena versus Masha Slamovich. We'll have to keep her away from Voodoo Donuts this time. But, I mean, it is a stacked card, man. Stacked to the gills. I could not be more excited to be back on the call for that with Brian Zane. Got some fun stuff coming up for Kitsune. Women's wrestling back in L.A. Winner's Circle Pro Wrestling back in L.A. And I'm certainly forgetting stuff. My brain is terrible. I did not prepare notes as aptly as you did, my friend. But again, stay tuned to JordanW_S on Twitter and Instagram for all the updates. Some very, very fun stuff coming up for the summer and beyond. And I could not be more excited for it and could not be more thankful once again for you having me on here, man.
Of course. It certainly won't be the last time. I definitely have a very good feeling about that. But that is going to do it for us tonight. Once again, thank you to Jordan Castle. Make sure that you follow him on all social media platforms. Remember to follow us at Junkies Pod and at Main Event_net for all things Main Event Network. We've got podcasts, we've got fan art, we've got live streaming. Check us out. Great group of people that we have here, and we're always looking to expand. So help us to grow this community and do it in a very positive way. So for Jordan Castle and Mr. Cincinnati, this has been a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon.